Hi, I'm Subhadra. I am a yoga teacher, wellness coach, producer, mother of four, and the owner of Yoga Angels International. This is Strip to the Naked Truth podcast. I guess you're wondering why I'm dressed like this today. Well, I am about to tell you. Hey everybody, how you doing today? Well, guess what? You see the outfit? Bam! I came dressed ready today to share my story about how I went from the corporate world into becoming a stripper and then transforming my life into a CEO, wellness company owner. Do you believe that? It was such a beautiful journey. So I want to share with you some of the ups, the downs, all of what I had to go through from leaving my parents' home at age 16 after coming into America and finding out that my father was an alcoholic and mom was being abused. So here we are in the next segment. I'm now a young woman growing up in America with my two sisters. We're on our own, becoming young adults. So before I get into how I became a business owner or found yoga and all of this stuff, I want to talk to you about some of the few challenges. But you're going to have to buy the book, you know. Remember that. The idea is I will give you a little synopsis of what happened. But it's in the book you're going to get the juicy details of how all the tragedy, no matter what came, how we rose above it, and what were the tools that present themselves during those times, and how I jump on them and create a new reality for myself. So let's start about one of the incidents that I went through. When I was now in Mount Vernon at 16, and I'm going to high school, we had a guidance counselor. I had never had a guidance counselor, never even heard of them. So having a guidance counselor was a nice thing. So you can go into their office, and you can have a conversation with them when things are getting rough with your schoolwork and so on. My case, one day after one of my father's horrid, I would call them attack, because I never know what was going to spike them or create them. So it felt like an attack to me. And I had wales over my body, physical evidence. And I think I started getting very sad because the guidance counselor noticed that I wasn't as great in biology. I think that was the trigger for me to be called into the office. Why was I failing biology? And, it was a bit more rough around the edges. And so in the office, we talked and I told her things were not that great at home. And of course, she asked more details. And when she saw the different cuts and wales on my body, she got concerned. Now, I'm young. I don't understand the system of America, but I was just about to find out. At the end of the school day, when I head home, before I went home, actually, I was basically, from Mount Vernon, it's not so far from Mount Vernon High School. So I'm literally walking to get home. When I get home, there is a van. I remember my spirit just, I tell you, I have this gauge in my belly. I have this notch that I will feel. And that notch was there once I see this van. And it said Westchester County something. It wasn't like police, but it had another thing there. But all I saw was the Westchester County. And I saw that it had there was like a grill in the back. And I knew that meant something. And when I got in the house, my mom was in there, and already there was what are they're called social service. The social service people was at my mother's door before I got home from school. And basically, I was on my way to foster home before I know it. I got in the house, my mom looked sad, she obviously was crying, and they might have been talking with her before I got there. And what I remember of it, I was not handcuffed, but it felt like I was going to jail. That's how I obviously interpret what I was experiencing, and my mom couldn't stop them from taking me. And I was gone in the back of the van, and it felt cagey, right? Because there is this entire, what you call it, fence. It looks like, the fence in the back of the. It's how they portray jail on television. When people are going to jail, they're in a car like that with that grill. And I was in one of those vans, and I'm looking back at my mom's door, and she's standing there, and she can't do anything. So what am I going to do? And that's how I ended up in foster home. Now, I didn't understand what it was, but the woman, they placed me in a place in New Rochelle, and the lady name was Ma Welsh. That's all I remember of her name. And Ma Welsh was a brown skinned woman, slightly like my mom, just a smaller frame. And she was probably much older than my mom at that time. And she had many other children in the home, very bright, studious young people. And I went in there, and I was not ready to talk to anybody. I was angry. And I just withdrew and withdrew upon myself for the first week or so. I didn't want to eat. I'm 16 years old. I've gone through enough trauma in Jamaica. Now I'm going through trauma in America, and I'm being taken from the home because I opened up to speak to the guidance counselor and share my story, which was prompt out of me, by the way. I just didn't recognize that was what was happening. She was doing her job, and I was feeding her the information. And next thing, it led to me being taken out of the home, and now I'm at Ma Welsh's house. Ma Welsh knew, she was a very smart woman, and the reason I know that now is the way she approached me. She had some psychology background, because she could tell that I was very withdrawn and pulled in. So she would come to the room and said, "Oh, you're going to join us today for dinner?" And I would say, "No." She says, "Okay, I'll have someone bring your food to you or bring it up." And it was a lovely home. And she made sure she knew I liked. She said, "What do you like to do?" "Ride bicycle." And it was so rough. I was so rough. And she says, "Okay, then maybe we can give you a bicycle and you can find your way." I think they already even had bicycles there. And it was lovely. There was a girl named Carmen there. She was from Honduras, and she was so beautiful too, smart and so on. I remember being so withdrawn, but Ma Welch would come to the room and take time to speak with me and ask me how I was doing, and ask me about my story, how did I end up there, and so on. And after giving her information, and though I would open up gradually because I didn't want to integrate too much with the other kids, I was just angry and withdrawn, really pissed off and knitted in the forehead. And she started to educate me about the system in saying that, she told me, "You don't belong here. You're very smart. Don't go back to the house. You just have to tell your mother that she has to remove all of your father's clothes. Every single thing that is off him has to be removed from the house, so that when the workers come, she's going to tell them that she has left your father." And she would then be given, the system will turn me back over to my mother. And the plan was, I wasn't to go back and stay in the home. I have to go and be somewhere else. So to figure out where to live, right? And so basically I was going to report this to my mother, and my mother, if followed the rules of what Ma Welch was telling us, I would be free from the system. She kept saying the system. I didn't know what the system was, but the system sounded like something bad. It was someplace where, like the prison, that's how my mind thought it was. This was like I was going to prison. And because I was a bad girl, but obviously I didn't do anything except got my butt whooped. But in, how this life is, the child has no power at that point. So this is how I was interpreting it. I was being punished for basically opening up to my guidance counselor without knowing that I was opening up, and that this could be the repercussion. Basically then, once Ma Welch told me that, my brain got tickering. And I called my mother. Now, I wish I could tell you I did it in the most peaceful vibe. I literally threatened my mother. You know, we were very angry. So it was just like a Jamaica style. It's like, you, listen, mommy, this is what the woman said for do. Listen what this woman say you should do. And you have to get me out of there. It was this kind of way I was telling her. And my brother was still in the home with my father. And I always felt like I was responsible for my brother. And so I was telling her, I don't want this happening to Dwight. And I have to go out there and get some place to live. But you have to this and you have to that. And please get rid of all of his clothes and make sure that when they come there, they're going to get in contact with you. Please, mom, I never asked you for nothing. And I was just ranting at her. It wasn't like I knew how to control or guide my emotions to talk with her in peace and request it nicely and calmly. That was not how it was done. I even literally threatened her, if you don't do this and free me, blah, 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 this kind of thing. And my mom was like, calm down, Donna, calm down. I know this. And I'm like, you guys are this, you that. And I was blaming her in the sense that their life is not together. And now I am in basically America prison, is how I'm telling her, which I was in a beautiful home in New Rochelle. It wasn't, but you know, obviously I was taken out of the home that I came to America in. So in my head, I felt like I was in prison in some way. So, and surely this home was better than my home, to be honest, in stature and everything. And, you know, I had but I missed home. I had my home that I came to America in. Needless to say, my mom agreed and my mom did end up removing the clothes. The meeting must have went well. I was not privy to that meeting because I was released from Ma Welch home and I did exactly what she said. I went, I got myself a job, and that would lead us to how I became corporate, how I went into corporate world to become a bank teller. And that's the story I'm going to tell you next. So I got out of foster home and pretty rapid time. I think I must have been there 3 months. And within the 3 months time, they had a meeting with my mom and I was released based on the fact that when they searched the entire home, my mom had comply and remove everything out of the house for my father. And then, of course, she had to quickly put it back before my father come home from work. And then they went on with their life. And then I was now on my own at 16 years old. And I've been on my own ever since. My sisters and I got a 3-bedroom apartment. They were working in the bank. And I decided that I needed to work in the bank too. So, of course, the paper in those days, you just go to the paper and look for all the jobs, and surely on the higher area was a bank hiring, and the bank was at the time called Bank of New York. And I went for the interview. I'm 16. I'm dressed. You see these heels, you know, we wear these heels. That's why this is probably more like the stripper gear part of it. But I was wearing the business suit, a little short skirt and the business shirt. And we wear high heels and so on. And I went for my interview and I'm 16 years old. I want this job. I could taste it on my tongue. If I understood manifestation back then, I didn't get what I was doing, but I was really tasting the job already before I get there. I was going to get this job. And I went in and I had a woman interviewed me named Michelle. Remember this name because it's going to show up again. And she was a Caucasian lady, and she had short hair, and she sat me, there was a desk and you sit on that side and she's on the other. She asked me all these questions and I came prepared and I answered all the questions and I told her what, I was wanting to do, and I aced that interview, okay? When she was done, she was like, welcome to the board, welcome aboard of Bank of New York. It's going to be so great to have you, Sandra. Can I see your documents? I take out my passport. Because my sisters had prepped me, they were already working in the bank. And so basically, they just gave me the in. I gave her the passport. She goes to copy them. She comes back. Again, that feeling in your belly, don't ignore it. It always means something. She came back and her cheeks was the first telltale sign. Her cheeks were very red and her spirit looks different from when she left me. When she left me, she was upbeat. She felt like she was so happy for me getting this job, and she returned with this dampened, saddened eyes, and red cheeks. This means something. And I knew it wasn't good. And she sat down and she said, Sandra, I would like to tell you I was so happy to have you aboard, but you're not old enough. Your passport said you're 16 years old, and we only hire from 18 and up. Oh my God. My heart. I could not even hold in the tears. I got the job and lost the job within the space of a few minutes. And I was sad. And her cheeks were red, and she saw my disappointment, and she saw the tears. I said, I thank you. Thank you. Nice to meet you, Michelle. I took my passport and my shoulders round, and I didn't walk out the way I walked in. I remember I walked in with my chest up and I was on my heels. I walked out feeling deflated. I needed money. I really needed a job. And I had gotten a job in the bank like my sisters, and I just lost it. I cried my way all the way home. And when I got into the house, they said, oh, we're sorry you didn't get it. And it was my mom. My mom worked for the bank. My two sisters worked for the bank. And they always rooting for me. And I said, me get it earlier, and then me lost it right away. And they were like, what are you talking about? I was telling them I got the job and I lost it, you know. And I told them the story. And they said, oh, wow, we're so sorry. So you have 2 more years. You just have to look for a different kind of jobs. But I wanted that money job, because that job was more higher pay range than the other regular job if you worked in McDonald's or Caldors or one of those places, which we were very aware about, because at 15 I worked at Caldors. We went right into working once we got into America. We did not hold back. We went into working. And so I was aware of other jobs, but I wanted a bank teller job because I was going to jump in the scale of pay range, and also it was just more professional. For Christ's sake, I was wearing a suit and heels, okay? I wanted this job. Well, as we were talking, my head went, Carrie, you're 18. What if I use your ID? I was already moved on. All they needed, I didn't see obstacles. I am still the same way today. You can put mountains in front of me. I don't see those. I'm always thinking of a solution. So I tell you, I found my solution that day. I have a sister who's 18. She has a passport. And we look alike, I tell her. Don't we? We look so much alike, and we really do. I said, the only thing, you have a bigger nose. And she just always look at me when I say that, like, stop it, you know. This was a running joke. But it made me cheer up immediately. I knew this was a solution, and I was willing to walk that road. And so I did. We waited a week. We waited 2 weeks. And then we checked the papers again. And the paper still had that opportunity for a bank teller. And you know what I did, right? I made an appointment for Veronica Griffiths to show up to the bank. And like said, like done, Veronica Griffiths had an interview. And I walked in, hoping I wouldn't get the same woman who interviewed me. You could guess what happened, right? There was Michelle again, and there I was, in a different suit, 2 years older in my mind, and with wearing a new name, Veronica Griffiths. Now when I think about the courage it took to do that, it just seemed natural to me those days. It did not seem like I had to do anything extra. But that's what's called, when you're in need. In Jamaica, they say, where there is a will, there is a way. I knew that mantra. So here I am now, sitting in front of Michelle once again, yet again, about to be interviewed from top to bottom. And the interview went very similar to how she interviewed me. I saw her face change colors a few times, and I knew she just could not believe this was happening. But she went through the entire interview with me, and I answered every question eloquently. And at the end, she said, so Veronica, May I have your documents, please? Do you have your passport, birth certificate, all of that? I whooped every single one out, slid it across the desk to her. She took them, opened it, and you know that pause. There was a pause, as if she just went crazy. Like, oh, this not the same person. She took the information. I'll be right back. She copied them. She brought them back. Welcome. Once again, what she had said to me before, to Bank of New York, have a great experience with us. One of those, outros. I walked out that interview the way I meant to walk out in the first one. Chest up, thank her, shook her hand. I swear to you, my entire world changed. I knew this was the opportunity I needed. I needed a job, a real job, and I knew how to work, and I was about to go big time. You couldn't tell me I had made it. I was now successful, okay? I walked out of there, I'm skipping, I call my sisters, I got it. So now, there you are, I'm working, right? Oh, wait. I'm so sorry. Here is the mix-up of the name. My sister worked in Bank of New York. The bank I interviewed for is Scarsdale National. My fault. I'll tell you how that ended. It was Scarsdale National. I don't know if anyone knows Scarsdale, but Scarsdale is a very wealthy town in New York. It's beautiful. Small, but gorgeous place. And that's where I was interviewing. You knew I wanted to be amongst all that fancy, upscale money, okay? It was opulence, and I knew I belonged. Yes, indeed, I did. I wanted to be in that environment. And so Scarsdale National, and my sister, she worked at Bank of New York. There is more. I did get caught, by the way, in using my sister ID. I will not tell you how that story ended. That's where I come back and say what? Buy the book. You have to buy the book. But that was another courageous moment in how I handled. By the way, I worked in the bank for 2 years at Scarsdale National. You can Google this, because the other day I Googled it for myself and say, when Scarsdale National merged with Bank of America that year, imagine what happened. You can see how I got caught, right? If I'm working at Scarsdale and Bank of America buys Scarsdale, use your imagination what happened. But I worked at Scarsdale National for 2 years and developed the most amazing career in banking. Got promoted to head teller, was really getting ready to go into that area of working. And of course, I got caught. So now you know, I am now corporate, full-blown corporate, 5 days a week, suits, high heels, and I rocked it. I loved counting the money. It was a great corporate start. But then, how did I move from corporate to stripping? From suits to nude? Well, it wasn't always nude. I would wear bikini and outfits and all sorts of things. But let's tell you that story. While being in corporate, at 20 years old, I conceived my daughter. I met the father of my daughter in the bank, the very bank that I got hired by. He would come in and he would be there from another company who sent their employee there to cash their check and so on. I won't get into that story, but definitely he was now going to become the father of my first child. That's a whole other segment, but I ended up conceiving and having a child at 20 years old. Having my child for the first year of banking was not exactly what having a child would turn out to be. I would drop this baby off at 6 a.m. I would have to leave her, drop her, get myself to work to be ready to open up in the bank by 8, which we get there an hour early, like 7. So we count the tills, we organize, we do all of that. When we open the door for the customer to come in, it would be about 8. At my house, that means I start getting ready, packing babies from about 5. Get it together, organize her lunch, organize my life, and get her to the babysitter by 6. Get from the babysitter, get to work by 7. Get to work by 7, start working by 8. Leave that job, had after having the baby, recognizing I need more money, have a second job, not one, but two more jobs. I had a job at the post office per week, and then I also had a job with a company called Lillian Vernon another three times a week, or it could be vice versa. But I'm working a full-time job and two other job part-times. That sounds like a burnout was about to happen. Did that for a year and then recognized, oh no, oh no. And that, my friend, is what's threw me into becoming a stripper. An entrepreneur in Sandra May Griffiths has been born. Oh yeah. That year of suffering and working, I was constantly tired. My baby, I never get to see my baby. And then I asked one question. And this is why I always bring us back to saying we should ask ourselves questions. Because when we ask ourselves questions, we get answers, because it's putting it into the universe, and we get answers back from our higher state of being, right back from that creator that makes us. And if we don't ask, we cannot receive the information. The question I asked was, what was I going to do to make money to take care of my child? And the next question was, what can I do that I love, that was not 3 jobs, that I can do that can take care of my child? And that I desire the most to just raise her. I want to be her mother, not dropping her at a babysitter. What can I do to do that? Those were the 2 things I wanted to accomplish. And I asked it to my friend at the time, my closest girlfriend. And when I said it, she said, well, you like to dance? You love dancing? And like that, I decided then and there I was going to be a dancer. I told you that story in one of the episodes. It never occurred to me once that to become a dancer, whatever that meant, I needed to be trained. What occurred to me was, I love to dance. I'm going to be a dancer. And that's how I'm going to become able to raise my daughter myself. Again, I never saw obstacles. I saw solutions. Once my friend said the word dancer, I know I've set that intention that I'm going to be a dancer. The funniest thing is, instant manifestation was also a common thing in my life. I never understood it then, but I see it now. The Friday we had the discussion. The Saturday we went to the clubs to dance, hanging out. A woman came and gave me her card, and the business card was, she said, you should be a dancer. I didn't know the woman meant I should be a stripper.